and welcome back to another wonderful day of LCS NACL. More playoffs ahead of us, more teams being eliminated today, and the last time that you're going to see us on the Path to LCS channel, because after this, things heat up. Everything goes on the Challengers League after this one, but let's focus on today. I'm Sierra, joined by Magical and Beatdown. Things have been really exciting so far here in playoffs.
Oh, for sure. I mean, playoffs are always exciting, right? Double elimination. We are getting teams eliminated. We are in our top 8 now after having eliminated 4 more teams yesterday. Man, it feels like things are just going so fast.
Yeah. We don't get a moment to really relax except for these pre-show segments where we get to chill, sit back a little bit, scroll Twitter a little bit as well, see what the community is up to. So we do just that. First off, I mean, we talked about teams being eliminated, Beatdown.
That's right. We actually have all of our provisional teams who are going to the promotion relegation tournament. And of course, this is Winnie, the jungler for AoE, talking about, how the year's been, how it's the end of their run, even though it's not Proving Grounds anymore. Winnie, come on. And the point is, they're still a team that we're pretty confident are going to be able to make it back to NACL in the summer, but they're still going to have to make it through some of those qualifier teams.
I mean, it does suck for AoE that the last team they had to face off against was the red-hot FlyQuest Challengers. Yeah. And the only reason FlyQuest Challengers are down here is because they only had the late-season surge and then had to face off against Dignitas Challengers really early on in round 2. So it's just one of those things where, I feel like AoE could have gone farther, but they just got the short end of the stick.
It's kind of how it goes, and, there's a couple of teams already in our lower bracket that I'm surprised to see there, but not every team can be making that upper bracket run and dream. For our next tweet, though, we'll get a little drum roll. Ooh. Here we go. Ooh, okay, so we're getting the official word here.
Let's go,
about the teams that are going to be playing in the promotion relegation tournament. That is going to be happening April 17th to 23rd. And that's going to be teams fighting to keep their spot and teams looking to try and make their way on into the league.
Right.
Cool thing is that Fear and Wildcard, they're here. No matter what happens now, we're going to see them in summer in the North American Challengers League. And it's exciting too because we're looking at Fear. They're still in the upper bracket. Even though there's a tough matchup for Wildcard today, there's still a chance that they could make the run.
I kind of want to talk about these qualifying teams that we have contesting against AoE, TLF, FlyFam, and CLGF. There's some hot teams down there. Team Fish Tacos are a team that I kind of have my eyes on. Maryville were the team, but then they lost Team Fish Tacos, the team that I think now has to be in the conversation as a potential candidate that we will see in summer.
Exciting. I like to see that there's this fight to keep the spot in the league going on forward. And I mean, especially looking at AoE Gold, I mean, that was a team that it fared really well. It's just, unfortunately, there is teams that have to face that relegation. So I'm sure we'll be able to see great things going from them then. For our next tweet, let's check this out. We got Wixie's dead.
Oh, this made me so sad.
Oh, no.
It sucks too because Wixie played his heart out in that series. His dad
he tried,
said
man.
It's just he was doing everything. If you watch that series, it was Wixie against the world. The guy was playing out of his mind against Golden Guardians.
Yeah, that was a good series overall. Immortals really turned up in playoffs like we know they usually do. It just wasn't enough to overcome Golden Guardians, who, are making that late season push that we keep talking about.
We got such supportive parents for our
we love
talent.
that.
So
love it.
Love to see that, even though sometimes you do have to see that heartbreak as well. Yeah. For a very final tweet before we're moving along with our show, Bradley, third Medallion Dream's still alive.
That's right.
Oh my god. Yeah, we've talked about him being the only remaining member on this Team Liquid squad, the one that was dominating, the one that has taken down 2 titles. So a lot of pressure for him to make it back there and try and get that third.
Especially because it's a whole new team, right? You're not playing with the same 4 members that you had all year long last year. You're trying to develop with other players. You're now the sophomore. You're no longer just the rookie role swap top lane. You have some other rookies on your team that you're trying to help coach and really build up on this team alongside some veterans such as Arrow.
Yeah, and it's been a tough one for Bradley those last couple of weeks, but it seems like lately, someone tweeted about it yesterday and it ended up on the broadcast. Him with the tank play really started to come back into form, it looks like, because those last couple of games, he's actually looked really strong.
We'll get to see that later on today, though, of course, anything in this lower bracket is always a little heartbreaking because this is elimination. Yeah. The Challengers League get to have all the feel-good stories of the players in the upper bracket run. Here, we say goodbye to teams, and already we have said goodbye to 4 more. I mean, these were some tough matches.
I mean, especially Immortals and CLG's matches against Team Liquid and against, I'm just making sure I get, it was Team Liquid and TLC. So, right, like, look, not Team Liquid, it's Golden Guardians and Team Liquid. There we go.
We got there.
My brain sometimes doesn't work. But Immortals, it was a close series against Golden Guardians where, honestly, if you look at the first 2 games, I thought that Immortals were going to just 2-0 move on. Same story for CLG against Team Liquid. I thought that there was the first game they actually had many opportunities to win against Team Liquid, but then TL brought it back. CLG won game 2 pretty handedly. So I'm like, okay, imagine had game 1 gone CLG's way. That would have been another 2-0.
Hopefully we'll see if AoE makes it back next split here at NACL. Of course, again, they have to play their way through the tournament. Promotion relegation tournament, but the other 3 challengers teams, we'll see them again. We'll see what they can bring to us in summer. But yeah, we do have to say bye. It's very sad, and we're gonna have to say goodbye to some more teams soon.
At the playoffs, there's definitely a lot of strong teams out there, so you gotta watch out. And that's a little bit of a focus in today's On the Range episode.
Welcome to another episode of On the Range. What in tarnation? I gotta go check on the critters. By golly, the predators got out.
Uh-oh, he might be caught. Oh, wait.
Oh, wait, this is Unforgiven.
Oh my God.
Unforgiven. You gotta remember that. He wins.
Oh my God.
He is gonna win this.
What?
Unforgiven.
Are you serious?
What the hell was that?
Peter, come on, get in the car.
Chunk down, the rocket's landing from Manui though, and Perry flashing forward trying to get Ryoma. He'll take him out. No, he doesn't have the distance, but Manui, he gets the shutdowns, maybe even a triple, but it will.
Oh God!
Look for the kick into the skies, the send. Do they have the first damage? Yes, they do. And Spawn Gale forces forward, getting revenge for the previous assassination. Winsome is now retreating from the front of the flight as they breeze down death into Winsome's back.
2v4 at the moment, with the damage on the sketch, with the battle dance away from Zazel. That's going to be the equalizer utilized. But the blade caller!
Okay!
Support CLG Faith!
Oh, I'm a little busy right now. You ought to come back next week for On the Range and here's some cake barbecue. Let's run!
I love the little toss of the KBB cube. Zol knows what's up with the esports.
They're in LA.
The LA thing to do. I mean, those are teams to be watching out for, honestly. And I love the fact, too, that going into this, that it's not even just a conversation of, like, how far will the provisional teams go, but just the fact that we are seeing that one provisional team still in the upper bracket that is considered one of these Apex predators to go up against. And it's really, really well-deserved. Now that there's no longer the relegation talk for these 2 squads, I feel like it's really time to celebrate how far they've been able to come, especially Cincinnati Fear, and stop talking about relegation stuff and look at, like, hey, is this an actual contender for the title?
And they are. The fact they're still in the upper bracket, of course, they have to face off against the toughest opponent in Cloud9 Challengers to see if they can continue on in that run in the upper bracket. But this team has been amazing. Not only did they get the 4th seed from the regular season, but the fact that they have looked so strong here in playoffs. Sure, they dropped 1 game to Golden Guardians, but outside of that, they've looked red hot. Every play they look for, it's great. This is something that I've loved about this team, is they are a cohesive team. They even talked about before where they really wanted to all play together going into this year. That's why they were fine being on a provisional team, because they felt that confident. that they could all come together, be this cohesive unit, and they constantly play as such.
Yeah, it's been fantastic to watch. I've loved this run, but you're so right in the fact that they have a really tough opponent ahead in the Cloud9 Challengers. This is the team that knocked Team Liquid down to the lower bracket in a 2-0 set. So they definitely have their work cut out. Other side of the bracket, Dignitas and 100 Thieves Challengers. Absolutely no surprise to anyone who have seen them in this upper bracket still. But on the path to LCS channel, we're going to be taking a look at that lower bracket. There are some banger games here upcoming. Of course, it does mean that we're going to bid farewell to 2 more teams today, but starting off with Wildcard, our other provisional team that's been able to make a fantastic run going up against FlyQuest, then later on Team Liquid and Golden Guardians.
This one is going to be Wildcard's toughest challenge yet so far. FlyQuest, we're talking about how this is a team who really turned it up towards the end of the split. That addition of Winsome being so incredible. And these two teams actually have a bit of a similar play style that we're going to touch on in a little bit that I find very interesting overall. But looking at the day as a whole, really quick, the thing I'm also very interested in that we were talking about a lot was that when we were looking at the top 8 there, Team Liquid Challengers are the only team that weren't seeded top 8 to actually make it here to top 8. So they're kind of the odd one out in that regard, and it even goes with what APA was saying earlier about how seeding's fake. We're going to win.
Well, let's be honest too, how close the seeding was between, I'm looking at this, between 3 and 9. It was 19-11 for 1, 2, 3, 4 of the teams, and 18 and 12 for 1, 2, 3 teams.
Don't worry, Magical, it's all fake.
It's all fake. The standings don't matter.
Really close.
It doesn't
matter anymore because playoffs is all that matters, right? That's what matters is how you perform in playoffs. Seeding be damned.
I mean, a couple of the teams that were a little lower in the seeding that then had to go up against the Titans that were Cloud9 Challengers might have something else to say about that seeding. That might be for sure, but that's all for another time. It's time to focus on the matchup that we have for today. We touched on it is FlyQuest going up against Wildcard. FlyQuest, I feel like it might be another team that kind of would claim that the seeding is fake. I mean, they definitely had a rough time for a lot of the season, just in the fact that they didn't have their full roster together, but since they had, this is a team that's been scaling and is looking better and better.
This team has been very impressive in the last few weeks of regular split. Like, we were talking about how this is another seed where it's like, that's not really accurate to their strength. They finished 7th, but you could argue and probably be right that this is a top 5 team, especially with how they've been playing recently. Their Dig series, it was a tough loss for them, but they still looked strong.
Yeah, it was well fought, very well fought between both teams in that series, like back and forth. What was it? The final game was 46 minutes in that series. It was an absolute banger of a series, and it makes me excited anytime I watch FlyQuest now, because Winsome on this team really has changed the whole identity. Like, Yuji is this player that I've always loved to watch as jungle, because he has the best mechanics, I think, of most junglers we have in this league. And yet, he just sometimes lacks direction. With Winsome, he has that direction, and it feels like he has a much more powerful voice because he has someone to back him up.
I mean, if you're talking about teams that are fun to watch, though, I feel like Wildcard has been the team that I've loved watching throughout this season. I feel like the games are always so fun. It was one of those teams that was definitely a little underestimated when we started off in our split, and now they're one of the 2 provisional teams that are still remaining here. Some of the games that they play, too, is just like, wow, this team is incredible. I feel like the one thing, though, is inconsistencies, so you don't know which wildcard you're gonna get. But if they're on their game today, well, this could be such a great match.
This is a team where we talk about identities, and even a couple of weeks ago during the regular split, between them and Fear, we talked about their draft identities and how particular they are with the way they play the game and how it differs for everyone else. And it's still taking time for teams to figure out how to work, what champions to ban, how to draft overall. Even some teams who played against them recently have cited as much as this is a team where they play and they draft for scaling, for team fights, but they always have Keel on a jungler who can have that kind of early game impact. It's all about the bot lane, and it's all about Lens for this team and what he's able to do in the late game.
Yeah, and I like what you're talking about, like Keel and how he's able to play in these early stages of the game, because it's going to be contested against someone like Yuji on the other side, where we watched how Keel has gotten great dragon controls. That's why they like to pick that Nunu, is so they can make sure they can stack dragons early. That gets them to that point where they have the power from Lens in the late game, that they've gotten him enough to satisfy him, that he gets those items to scale, and they have really good team fight potential. And so when we look at Wildcard and how they're going to perform in this day, it's going to be making sure that they get the upper hand on Yuji, especially when it comes to those early pathings.
I love the fact, too, that you're talking a little bit about the style between these two teams and how they can be really similar. So that'll be a really fun matchup to watch in today's match, just who's going to be faring better with that.
Right, and it's interesting too when you look at both of these teams. I was looking at the stats today. In playoffs, both FlyQuest and Wildcard are actually top 5 in Dragon Control, and that's been such a big thing for them lately. FlyQuest are actually in a 3-way tie for second place. I don't remember who they're tied with, but the point is, it is Wildcard who's taking 5th place as a result. Cloud9.
Oh,
Sure.
wow.
Cloud9, yeah.
I mean, Cloud9, you know, Lost in Zazel. It's just,
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
The Cloud9 difference, you know. But, well, that's for the other stream. We can have the second or third monitor open to watch that Cloud9 difference going on. But a little bit more about FlyQuest in this one. Because we talked about, you know, Yuji. I mean, Magical, you're someone who's spoken so highly of him all the time. And I mean, that's for a really good reason.
Yeah, it's like, I voted for him as my MVP last split back in summer. This split, I think he didn't have quite as much power just because he did play with Keetong, and it seemed like he just lacked that voice. Not to discredit Keetong, I think he did a great job. But with Winsome, he's gotten that voice. He has that conviction, and he knows where he needs to be on the map. He no longer looks lost. And that has helped so much with these early game plays. And this is where I said I want to see how FlyQuest are going to handle Keel in this early game, because Yuji likes to play for that style too. He likes to control his opponent. Look to stack up those dragons as you were talking about, Pete. This is a team that when they do that, then it gets Masu to be absolutely gargantuan. The Wi-Fi wizard no longer having to worry about the ping anymore. He just gets to be the pure wizard.
Get some incredible stuff there from Winsome, or rather from Masu, since Winsome has joined. And I mean, Masu's been good all split, especially since he managed to join the team. And he's been also able, another player much like Lens, who is new to this level of play, is really great in team fighting, is really good at maximizing the damage that they're able to put out in these team fights. And you see it with how aggressive both of them play.
Masu was popping off in yesterday's game too, when FlyQuest was going up against AoE. So interesting to see if he's still cooking from that. This time our draft is ready. Our first match here between FlyQuest and Wildcard.
Thank you, Sierra. We'll see you on the other time for the Rally Cry halftime show. But getting into this game, I mean, you guys kind of alluded to it. Masu, this guy who's been outperforming all expectations for rookies, but same with the Lens on the other side. I'm very excited to see how these two marksmen are going to compete against one another, because look at what has been banned so far. Taking away some of the power to save Masu in the spot lane by Wildcard, the Rakan, and Thresh, but then Lens' champions that he's been piloting very well in that Draven and Jinx off the board.
Yeah, and I mean, we're going to have to dig deeper into that 80 carry pool. Aphelios is still up, even though Thresh is no longer in the picture. So, of course, Lens is going to grab that one for himself. But Monster still has a lot of other options. We saw the Ezreal from him yesterday, which was incredible. You can still technically play the Xayah, but so far, FlyQuest aren't giving anything away yet. It's just about securing a great flex pick there, but probably a pick for Yuji in the Gragas, and another flex in the Jace.
And that Jace has been something FlyQuest have been very confident with. In fact, I think it's only been let through the very first time, the very first game of playoffs, and has been permanently banned since. There hasn't been a single game that Jace has been let through by any team against FlyQuest because of that flex. Philip being a great Jace player. In fact, that is one of his favorite champions he plays, while Spyrex having the champion Ocean to play against play with almost anything that he needs to.
And I'm interested to see if that's actually going to be Spyrex piloting the Jace just because of how aggressive you can be in the laning phase, how much you can get that early prio and affect the bot lane. Because we talk about how important it is for these teams to be able to do that. So that's something I'm watching to see how it develops here in the rest of the draft. The Blitzcrank, of course, is like the Duo King special. It does mean that the less mobile supports on the side of FlyQuest, especially because the Rakan is out of the picture. Yeah, exactly. So it means you're going to have to see what Winsome is going to be piloting there. It is the Ezreal lock-in for Masu, though.
Yeah, and I think this is something you talked about just a little bit, kind of hinted at how he performed on that yesterday. Definitely was an outstanding performance. Plus, it gives Winsome more opportunities to be that engaged support alongside a Yuji, while Masu can self-peel for himself, dodge away from a lot of the battles, especially when you're facing off against Duo King's Blitzcrank, something that he loves to play. Well, the Ezreal Blitzcrank, we have seen many times, it is a bit of a skill matchup, but if Ezreal's on point, you can always Arcane Shift away from the Rocket Grab.
Right, and we're seeing more top laners taken out of the picture. They're removing these split push type champions for Philip, and I'm wondering if Wildcard also go for that Camille ban. He played that yesterday as well, or in their last series as well. It looked really strong, and with what we are looking at here, when you see a mobile carry kind of like Aphelios, you want to get on top of them, and it helps. You're able to split push effectively, get on top and isolate them, keep them in one spot with the Hextech ultimatum. But it's FlyQuest actually who banned it away.
Interesting, very interesting on that one. I'm wondering if it's because they're looking for... I'm trying to think what
probably a tank matchup. I mean, they're probably just going to lock in Sion.
Cho'Gath is still open too. So there's these powerful champions that either side can play. Though Moose Hater, the Zac is something that he would much more likely play as opposed to either Cho'Gath or Sion. We look at his champion pool, like Garen being something, Camille, Fiora. A lot of these champions we have seen out of Moose Hater are hitting the bench. So now you got to, do you dig down? Do you pick up that Zac here into this matchup? That's the big question mark.
We're lacking engaged so far. We don't know what Keel's going to be playing in the jungle, but with all the tank busters kind of out of the picture there in this second rotation, I'd be surprised if both sides opted for the tank matchup. We're already seeing Philip play the Sion, and the question will be, as Wildcard lock in their last couple of picks, is it a Cho'Gath answer? Do we go for Ornn maybe? Something along those lines.
Kind of looking we got to look at Moose Hater, though. That's the thing. You got to look at Moose Hater as a player who does tend to play his own style, but he's not going for that. Instead, going for Ornn. And then I'm looking at what Keel wants to play. Karthus, something that he's played a lot, but no. Okay. In fact, we're getting far more meta look from Wildcard than we normally see.
Well, you say that, but technically... Maokai's fallen out of favor since he got nerfed. He's actually not as popular. We saw some teams still bring it. I believe Golden Guardians have played it. I know Fear have played it. And it's an interesting pickup there because you do focus on team fighting, much like we know Wildcard are so good at it. And it is how they draft. They play for the late game. It is less about matchup and more about how the 5 champions interact into the later stages of the game. And this, at the end of the day, even though I don't think I've seen Moose Hater play Ornn all split, this is Wildcard through and through.
No, I like that. I do like that call out right there, Beat. Sure, it's not necessarily the champions that they play, except for the Blitzcrank, but it is very much a style they play. They like to play for some control, especially that's one of the nice things with Maokai, is the control you can get over your opponents and try to see if you can contain Yuji. But that's the big thing, is you have to somehow contain Yuji playing Gragas, and how Yuji likes to play on a lot of these junglers, such as like Lee Sin or even Vi, is he looks for these early plays if he thinks that he can contend against you and actually get a good skirmish to force you out of your own jungle.
Right, and that last pick there for Winsome, the Braum is a great answer too. I mean, it's great into the Ornn and the Blitzcrank, because we've seen in the past where this is played, if you get pulled, you can use the get behind me to jump right back, and your Unbreakable cancels the Ornn ulti, so keep an eye on Winsome in these team fights. He's really going to be able to turn around some of the best team fight tools that Wildcard have, and I mean, that's a lot of pressure, but to be fair, Winsome is still that player who came in and has done nothing but impress since his time on FlyQuest LCS.
And here we are, loaded up onto the Rift. First game of a do-or-die best-of-3 between Wildcard and FlyQuest Challengers. This game alone won't dictate whether or not you're going to be eliminated from playoffs, but it could be the make-or-break scenario for either squad. You'd love to start off the best-of-3 with a head start, with both teams playing very cautiously. even with the Blitzcrank for Wildcard, a champion that is known for looking for those early plays, Wildcard do not want to play recklessly.
They don't. Though we've seen them fall behind a lot in some of their games and make incredible comebacks, FlyQuest Challengers are not a team who's going to let that happen. And of course, spam in chat who you think will win. Wildcard got a lot of fans, as always. We're going to see if Wildcard themselves will be able to live up to it. My eyes are on this mid lane, of course, like I highlighted in Draft Spyrax. Getting this mid push is going to be super important because Yuji, especially in playoffs, has been incredible in this early game, shutting out junglers, having that impact all over the map, but especially on that bottom side, especially because he's starting top side. I'm looking for Spyrax to get push, help Yuji set up on the bottom side of the map. We lose Magical? Is it just me?
Oh, I think I was muted. I don't know.
Oh,
I think something happened. It's okay.
He's here. That's what matters.
I'm here. All I was saying is I believe that looking at this one, where you're facing off as the Blitzcrank into Braum, it's such a difficult matchup. As a Blitzcrank player myself, this is one of those matchups that you kind of hate to see. Because anytime you go for the pull, you're always going to have to deal with a split second. And look at how low Joking is. He can't really stay in this lane. If he looks for a pull, it's going to be a trade of 1-for-1.
Right, those early levels, the Braum passive is so useful, and Masu and Winsome already getting that early push on the bottom side. Of course, we saw a nice tweet as well from FlyQuest supporting their Challengers team, and if you want to support some of these teams and get in the conversation, use the hashtag NACL on Twitter, and we'll try to feature your tweets on a stream. And okay, Philip.
Okay, Philip.
All right, Philip.
Last time these two players played against each other, I was kind of talking to you about this. Nice attempt at the pull right there. But that's the problem against an Ezreal. But going back to this top lane, Philip got the better end of Moose Hater in both games. It was a 1-1 split in the best of 2, but that was when Philip was really starting to come back into his own, where he had been struggling all season long up until that series, where beforehand, FlyQuest Challengers had gone 0-6 in the last 3 series until they faced off against Wildcard. In fact, it was 0-7 since they won game 2 against Wildcard. They had quite the slump. And a lot of the reason why they've come back has not only just been Winsome joining the team, but Philip looking like this top laner that who got a lot of praise last year when he subbed into the LCS split.
Right, I mean, as Josh says, the Philip that was promised has shown up here in NACL Spring. It's been some good stuff overall, and yeah, once Winsome joined, I mean, Masu even talked about how that not only does he bring that direction and voice to the team, how he encourages other people to speak, and it's just been good for everybody all across the board. Some good stuff here in Wildcard. I mean, they have had a overall good split. They finished in the top 8 and they managed to make, they finished strong, better than we thought they would.
Top 8's really good.
It's fantastic. And the thing I want to bring up though is the slump they had towards the end, which was interesting. I asked Keel about it and he talked about how it was tough for them, but how in the long run, he thinks it's helpful for them because it forced them to really have those difficult conversations. What are we doing wrong? Iron this out as a team. And it's better for them now because now they feel more confident about their play. Even going into the playoffs, we saw the mild shifts in the playstyle.
Oh, nice pull. Nice damage on a Winsome, but got to pull a stack in on Joking. He's got to be careful. Got to get done as Masu takes a lot of damage. Lens getting the heal out of this bot lane. Masu Winsome, who's had the better end of trades for such a long time, now are going to be the ones forced out.
Yeah, it's that Ignite. Putting in work. Top of the nice pull from Duo King. Overall, though, no one's going to fall. Everyone goes back to base, and we spend our gold. And actually, it'll be Masu who does have that bit of a lead here. We're seeing these junglers, too, interact with each other a good bit, trying to set up vision, trying to be a nuisance, see if you can influence their farming in any capacity whatsoever. And that is going to be pretty important because, again, some of the best games we've seen from Yuji are where he uses the prio he has to just shut junglers out of the game.
And so far, he has attempted, has looked for a couple of invades onto Keel. The red buffs might secure that Keel barely got over Yuji, if we think back just a couple of minutes ago. But Yuji still hasn't fully been able to have that mark over Keel. Look at how the CS is between the two of them at the moment is right now. Flash from Sligo will stay safe. Not going to actually find a kill onto Spyrax since Winsome is there to save him. going back into the jungle points, I'm really looking still at when Yuji can actually get Keel behind, or if he can at all, because at the moment, Keel's been doing a fantastic job at just farming up, staying even with Yuji, waiting up until level 6.
The other thing, too, is that you got to give credit to Soligo trading very... Oh, wait a second.
But he already flashed. Oh,
got him.
You were just praising him, and he dies to first blood.
No, that's a praise of Yuji and Winsome sticking around, using the lens to know that there's no vision, that if Soligo shows up, we take him out of the picture immediately. Because remember, Soligo took Ghost in this matchup, not Teleport. So now, you can't take as many comfortable reset timers compared to Spyrax, who gets the come back to lane with the Serrated Dirk. So Soligo, overall, has been getting pushed, but now things are probably going to change.
Well, on to win some. Keel shows up into the bot lane, while 2 were focused on to Dragon for FlyQuest. Gonna get the flash in with the Bramble Smash back onto Winsome. So they take 1, but they gotta be careful. Here come the reinforcements of FlyQuest. You're locked in the alcove. Keel to get a little bit of movement speed. Nice body slam, flash from Yuji, but knock him into the air, trying to survive. And look, they take down Lens. 1's gone, and Yuji surviving with Keel. Duo Kings split up in the fight. The beast will be slain even if you aren't able to get Keel. At least you get a double kill for Masu, while Keel gets hunted down by Spire and taken out. 3 deaths in bot lane.
Wow. Explosive early game here coming through from FlyQuest Challengers. You get Masu a double kill, and things were already going pretty well in this laning phase. We're already seeing the difference for Spyrax with that Serrated Dirk. He's able to show up and have that impact in this team fight. They're actually, the mid jungle are doing this. They know on the side of Wildcard as well. You see the pings there on the minimap. They wanted to rush this play, get in, get out, and trade the dragon for it, but they took too long to take Winsome out of the picture, and they were in a rough position here where Yuji gets the beautiful double knock-up with the body slam.
It was one of those moments where it's like 15-minute adventure. That's it, in and out real quick. And then they realize how horrible that decision was. That's 3 weeks later, they're just all in tatters and torn apart.
Right, and we saw what Masu could do in this series against AoE when he got a massive lead. 2 kills right off the bat is... I mean, that's massive. Magical, I'm going to be real with you here. Even though Wildcard get the Drake, the gold is in FlyQuest's pocket. And even if this is what Wildcard usually want to do, these next couple objectives, especially that Rift Herald, is going to be hard fought if Wildcard are actually going to be able to go for them.
I thought for a second that True Shot Barrage was going to steal it from Masu, and I was just about to say, all right, well, never mind. This game is looking even worse for Wildcard. But like you talked about, it is going to be the trade. Rift Herald will be secured by FlyQuest. But as for Wildcard, this still goes into the game plan that we kind of were setting up before. Now this team, especially in playoffs, their identity has been about stacking up these dragons as quickly as possible. So that way, when it comes to the team fights, not only will they be on an even footing, but they actually could have slight leads that they can utilize, especially when we look at their composition. An Ornn, Victor, a Felios? Those are all great when it comes to team fights.
You do scale incredibly well. Of course, Winsome, again, with with the answer with the Braum is going to be that game changer there in these team fights. That was pretty funny there from Philip. I like that he's using his prio to be a nuisance for Keel in the jungle.
It just, I don't know why, it just reminded me of those moments way back in the day when Poppy's heroic charge could move Baron, and you could get it all the way back into your fountain.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, it was wild, man. All right, but I'm going to put that on pause, because right now, Yuji, again, looking for a play into the bot lane.
Oh, no
the flash out of Lens, but Soligo and Keel were already here. They found that Spyrax was looking for the play as well with the Nature's Grasp. They get the pull back. They get a lot of damage on Yuji. They take down 1. They take down 2. As Masu now in a horrible position. Has to dash over the wall. Could be slowed down by the sapling, but he'll be fine. Nice trade up for Wildcard. 2 for 1.
A really good answer from the mid jungle of Keel and Soligo. And even though Keel falls, I hope we get a replay because that was really smart what he ended up doing there, using that ultimate, that micro silence coming through to make it harder for Yuji and Spyrax to use any actual abilities. Either way, it's a good move there from Wildcard. They haven't fully caught themselves back up in this game, but you're getting gold into Lens's pocket, and that's the takeaway we like to see here. And you look at the minimap, they had the vision set up beforehand, and that's how they managed to turn things onto Spyrax, gave Duo King and Lens the opportunity to come through here, and this just isn't the fight you want as FlyQuest.
Oh, it's, I think, a great look for Wildcard, where Soligo as a player, he was on Evil Genius's academy last year, and a lot of people criticized him for being one of the weaker leagues for the team, where people said that he was the underperformer of the team. But as he has been on Wildcard, we have seen that that has shifted a lot. And even in that play where sure he dies, he is setting up the rest of his team. He is a team player through and through to get advantages for critical members, such as you talked about. Getting that gold over to Lens really is going to help equate against Masu, who is who you have to. It's a battle between these two marksmen that we talked about at the beginning of the day. It is a Lens-Masu showdown.
Right, and speaking of, Masu manages to acquire some of that plate gold from the Rift Herald. UG drops, and it just keeps FlyQuest in this comfortable gold lead for the moment here. My eyes are on this dragon in these next few minutes, especially now that we're well past level 6. Ultimates available on all sides. And FlyQuest need to stop this dragon stacking, because you already highlighted Magical. Even though Winsome is really useful in these team fights as the Braum, at the end of the day, when we talk about scaling, ability to fight later on, Victor, Ornn, Aphelios is unreal.
But they still are slacking right now in the gold. When we saw the gold graph, you can even look at the top player scoreboard, 2,500 separating the two teams. Comes down to some of those kills, as well as 3 plates in the spot lane that Masu has picked up. A plate in mid lane for Spyrex to give him a bit of an edge. It's all slight advantages across the board for FlyQuest that put him in this position of power momentarily.
That's right, they have to keep it up though. Not just happily farm away. That's what Wildcard wants to do. That's what they often do. And now Keel, of course, is on a very aggressive jungler where you can have a lot of plays with that Nature's Grasp, so my eyes are also on him to see how he's going to be able to set up these team fights here. And I like the top lane. Everyone has agreed. Just leave it alone. They're tanks. Who cares? Let them do their thing. It's about mid lane. It's about bot lane. And we're seeing that Maokai pick pay off, Magical, because I think it was you that mentioned it. The saplings is a very, even though it was nerfed, even though you get them less often than before, they're that extra bit of vision that you give, making it a little harder. Yes, you can still get that information for your laners. Be like, oh, hey, jungler's here. Well, thanks, Keel.
As Philip takes another plate again, but going back to kind of what we were talking about with FlyQuest, how they are getting these advantages. They are still putting up pressure. Even though you see that Lens, Duo King want to fight against Winsome Masu, and every time Duo King is pulling back in Winsome, it's a little bit of trade here and there. It's all about how you're getting these advantages around this upcoming dragon that UG has already started. Spyrex is on a control ward, already spotted out. So Sligo knows the information with 50% on the dragon and the Glacial Fissure hitting Lens. They could have looked for a re-engage, but instead it's the Nature's Grasp getting a line save. They get the first kill, and they could even turn it around. It's a 4v5 fight with the Gravity Wall, and here comes the Chaos Storm of Ruin. Lots of damage onto Masu. Moonlight Vigil does connect. The Spyrex gets so much back onto Sligo, forcing a flash and a heal, with Masu getting damage onto Lens. That's the critical target you need to take down. They try to re-engage.
Oh, they're going in!
Him down, but they get ripped apart on the way out. A Dual King fighting against Masu. Spyrex, though, is a hero for the team to make sure they will clean up, as Dual King could not silence Masu. This rookie is unstoppable.
That was incredible. They actually went back in for the re-engage and secured the triple kill. They only lose UG in the process, and all for all, it is a 4-for-1. This early game has been all FlyQuest challengers, and we'll see it again here. The ult from Winsome to actually make space so Masu and Winsome could join UG here. Even though this Nature's Grasp was so good, you can see that it even holds down Spyrex. The fact is, Winsome falls, they need to back up and re-engage, and what happens after is so impressive to me, because even Masu, as a player, highlights how he wants to be more aggressive, wants to look for those more high-impact plays, while along with his teammates, look at this re-engage they go for here. The Gragas ultimate was especially impactful.
Also, the double poke there from Spyrex and Masu, both landing onto Lens, so they could look for that re-engage, because without him, they knew there's no Chaos Storm. There's no real damage anymore from Sligo, so all they have to do is take out the one troubling thorn in their side.
Right, and wow, okay, first Tabrick actually went over to Philip, who has just been, for no pun intended, demolishing that top lane turret and demolishing Moose Hater in this laning phase. If we could actually see the gold really quickly, just to see where Philip is at, because he's going to be very tanky here. 1,700 ahead. And the fact that Philip is naturally acquiring this advantage and that Spyrex and Masu have such an incredible gold lead means this gold is going to be so impactful here.
Wildcard do not want to relent their dragon stacking. The one late game insurance they've always fallen back to with the Nature's Grasp, and it's Smite stolen by Yuji. He gets the dragon as a nice body block there on the Horn, and they get the re-engage coming in from Philip with a lot of damage with the explosive cast. A Moonlight Vigil not connecting, only getting pittance of damage as they take down Soligo. Lens still takes one back. Lens is still full. They haven't touched him this time around with the poke they need to. So he's able to clean up a couple kills. They gotta be careful because Masu is still alive and he is fully health as well. They could be the trade of ADCs once more, but both teams will fall back.
It's a 3 for 2 actually. It favors Wildcard, but FlyQuest get the dragon. They slow the stacking, and we're seeing what Winsome's able to do in these team fights. Again, he blocks, cancels the Horn, and it still went the way of Wildcard in terms of numbers lost. So the fact is, Winsome still has this pressure. He needs to keep canceling those Ornn ultis, make sure Moose Hater doesn't have that impact. And you're going to see it here. This fight looks very different if that call, the Forge God, actually comes through. And it's also really important that Yuji manages to steal, or rather secure the dragon, not let it get stolen away. And the big thing though, at the moment, when you have something like an Ezreal and a Jace, you have all-in potential, but you want these more extended fights. This Aphelios, on the other hand, has the Moonlight Vigil, has this burst damage coming through here, and that's why you saw the fight go the way it did.
Getting more gold over to Lens as well. Keeping up the best he can with Masu. 6-0 on Ezreal. Nearly has that Muramana as Manamune continues to stack up. That is a huge spike for FlyQuest when we look at how they can continue to pilot these fights. And as you called out rightfully so in the last fight, is Lens being untouched seems like one of the flaws FlyQuest had in that fight. Had they just focused more on Lens, probably would have been a clean wipe for them, because it is all about Masu versus Lens, but Masu really wants to poke more. He doesn't really want to be in the thick of everything, getting a lot of damage onto anybody he can. He just wants to see if he can chip down some of these health bars.
With a little more ability haste, Masu is literally just going to be Q spamming, and of course looking to focus on auto attacks as well because he went to Trinity Force. But FlyQuest comp isn't really built to just skip the front line and access somebody like Lens. Both of these teams want that front to back. The disruption you're hoping for is Yuji and his ultimate to see what he's able to do.
Train. Look for the dive. Getting a lot of damage on the Lens, but he's still alive. The explosive cast actually punts him back with the Chaos Storm, getting a lot of chip damage on a FlyQuest. Nobody blocked that time. The flash away. They get the knockup onto Winsome as he heals up. Everyone surviving. The only thing to be raised is that mid lane turn.
That's right, and keep in mind, this is FlyQuest who are up 5,000 gold at the moment here. But Wildcard are keeping their own in these fights. They are forcing these fights going either 1-for-1, going even, that one fight where they went ahead. It's been some good stuff from this team so far, but they will need more as this gold lead now is going to continue to hurt them as FlyQuest are going to recall, spend some of the gold they earned, and we're seeing these further item spikes come through here. But we saw that example. If Winsome doesn't block that call of the Forge God, these fights are a little harder for FlyQuest.
Harder, but not impossible, since everyone did still survive from the fight. They got the objective needed. The FlyQuest, even if it wasn't the cleanest play, they didn't get the kill onto Lens that they wanted to. They got exactly what they came for in objective terminology. And now that gives them more control around the upcoming Baron, even if it's very early on.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's very early on. It's about the setup control they can possibly put around it with a minute out until the Dragon and no real threat of a sole point for Wildcard. They can easily trade that for complete security around this top quadrant.
So the interesting thing about that is that we have a Chemtech Rift. So this is pretty favorable for Wildcard, because even in the old Chemtech Rift, it's very difficult in either iteration to fully secure vision over one side of the map. In this case, it's because of those empowered scrying orbs, and of course, the honey fruit as well. So Wildcard actually benefit from this, as it's going to be easier for them to clear out the vision that FlyQuest are setting up. And you can see, that's very little effort. They've managed to clear everything FlyQuest have laid and can actually go for the Scuttle Crab themselves. Of course, it's going to be the back and forth, the handshake, the taking of turns, where FlyQuest are going to look to do the exact same thing once more.
for FlyQuest, when we criticized them during the season, before they had Winsome on the team, a lot of it wasn't due to their lane phase. In fact, praised a lot of their mechanics that all of these players had. It was always about how they translated those leads into the objective control around Baron. As Spyrex might get caught out around such a play, that actually can go exactly into the opposite way I was thinking for FlyQuest, where now they don't have that control anymore.
Just fine. You can't go for the Baron. Lens is mid and he's recalling, and it's a kill that went over to Duo King, so it's a little unlucky. It gets Soligo alone time with the turret, and with Keel shadowing, that should go down, but again, they lose out on another Drake. FlyQuest immediately take advantage on the other side of the map. There is no hope of the steal, so Wildcard are going to need to do a lot more than that if they want to catch themselves back up into this game, especially because we are 15 minutes as of this point from any potential Dragon Soul there for Wildcard.
And see, I was about to say, maybe it's worthwhile for Wildcard. They have still yet to topple a structure. All turrets still remain for FlyQuest in this game. That's a lot of ambient gold that can be picked up by Wildcard that they desperately need as they continue to suffer that 4,000 gold deficit against FlyQuest. And going back to the point I was trying to make before in the macro calls FlyQuest have been making that I was trying to praise them for, and you were right. You know, the top lane play didn't actually really be, it wasn't very detrimental to FlyQuest because they still get the dragon and they still have that ability to set up the control to force the hand of Wildcard into fighting into their terms.
Yeah, and even without the kill, Soligo being the victor, you do get those passive stacks towards leveling up one of your abilities. But yeah, overall, not too impactful. And now you see the vision game once again, and trying to use the enemy scrying orbs is so important, makes it harder for them to be able to clear out the vision here like we were highlighting. But when it comes to control, you see it. FlyQuest, they're going to push mid. They're going to keep that pressure on. And hopefully, Wildcard are able to take down some of these outer structures. Because you're right, it's a lot of gold, Alex. Oh, wait.
Nice flash from Keel. Had to survive that one.
Yeah.
But here, I mean, getting a flash again off of the jungler, someone who wants to engage. Good call from FlyQuest, slowly but surely trying to whittle down some of these summoner spells for Wildcard. But one shining light for Wildcard is Moose-Hater does secure the first turret of the game for the team.
Yeah.
It doesn't get them too much gold, but at least it's something back on the map.
Yeah, Philip looks like he's trying to get something back too, because he is chasing this guy down.
Yeah, at least he's trying to, but it's kind of a wet noodle fight. They don't really do that much damage. It probably would have taken maybe an hour for someone to finally fall.
Probably. And now, as we are hoping the game is not that long, Wildcard still find themselves.
I'm hoping it's that long if it's a really exciting game.
Yeah, okay, you know what? I take it back. If it's an exciting back and forth game, I'll take a 60-minute.
Like no LCK game.
Yeah. No, first kill at like 45 minutes. Y'all can have that. I don't want that.
Yeah, Cubby, you hear us? You can have those. We don't want those.
I don't even think Cubby likes that. Not really. No way.
He acts like he does. He doesn't. Nobody does. Everyone wants fights.
Nobody does.
Everyone wants fights. And speaking of that, FlyQuest continue to gain control, trying to suffocate Wildcard the best they can. And this is a big problem with drafting Maokai, right? Is that Maokai is really good at setup control when you're ahead. Or even when you're behind, you feel so useless, especially if you look at the build that Keel has gone for. Very, very supportive build.
Yeah.
This is purely about bolstering Soligo and Lens the best they can, as ornaments are being gifted out. They are making up some of that gold deficit inherently by the passive of Warren.
And that is actually a really important call out, Alex, because those stats are going to make up for the gold deficit we're seeing here. So FlyQuest, this is why we were talking about needed to keep up the pressure, and this is how.
No, Soligo, he's the one caught out like they had gotten Spyrex before, and that actually is a lot more detrimental.
Baron time.
Because, as you said, Baron time. A lot more likely. No, Duo King getting the pull back onto Winsome. That's going to be the TP. They could burst down Braum quickly enough, or can they? They weren't able to actually take him down fast enough, and now you got Moose-Hater chasing Winsome all the way in the back line to pick up the kill, but they've lost Keel.
Was it worth it?
And Matsu back into the back line. Godlike double kill for the rookie marksman.
And there it is. FlyQuest get the fight that they need. They were going to go for the Baron anyway, but now it's 3 for the price of 1. You happily trade Winsome for that. And now it's Masu. Oh, he's feeling himself. He's feeling that confidence. He's making sure they can't affect this mid lane. There is nothing in trade for the Baron that FlyQuest got.
It's the shot calling that you need from FlyQuest. One pick, and they say, we can go for this. They think that they have Winsome, but let's pull the trigger anyways. They kill Braum, whatever, we have the fight.
Yeah, and look at Masu here on the side. After the Moonlight Vigil, he zones Lens out of the fight. There is no Aphelios doing damage. There is no one to protect Keel from the might of Masu. And you can see it. He's just putting damage in all across the board. Doesn't even need to help them secure the Baron. He helped defend that turret. And now this gold lead has ballooned up to 7,000. And just in time for the next Drake to come through. And I mean, oh, look at bot lane and mid lane. Woo. Magical, look.
I mean, bot lane,
I can't do the math. You have to do it for me.
2,000, but having a little bit more than a 2,000 lead for Spyrex as well. That's 4,000 in total of the 7,000 gold lead you have in your carries. And then the other 3,000 is in your top lane. So
yeah,
you have,
Philip.
That one's the only one that's the outlier. But the fact that you have Spyrex and Masu, the two poke champions, the two carries of the team, having such large leads over the competition, where the only thing you really have to worry about is Moose Hater being a tank, but at this point, not tanky enough to survive all the damage you're going to unleash.
Yeah, with this gold lead, I don't even know if poke is the right word, because you think Facebook and things like that. It's like being poked with a hammer.
Well, right now, Dark did have the flash. Good pull, but it's on to Philip. Not the target they want, or is it? Because they actually got a lot more damage than I expected to. With the Moonlight Vigil getting a lot back and forth. Philip will survive. Winsome as well. Masu getting a lot of damage. Your shot barrage connects on a Moose Hater. But Wildcard, surprisingly so, are still putting up a bit of a fight around these inhibitor turrets when it seems like it's do or die. But unfortunately, the fact they're so far behind, they're just getting hit by the bullets of FlyQuest, where any poke they do, any damage they try to get back onto FlyQuest is kind of just mitigated, and Masu's like, all right, fine, we'll just take the structures anyways.
Hey, look at what Spyrex did. They had a deep wave even though they made the play on him, so they're just losing parts of their base all across the board here.
Now they look for the fight inside the base. Lens was the first target to try to get on top of him, as they have the backline. Ornn on top of Masu, but he does nothing to try to stop him, as everyone else is scattered to the winds from Wildcard. FlyQuest to play, even though Masu looked in danger, he was always just baiting him out. He knew the limits that he had on Ezreal, and FlyQuest knew the limits of this game.
And it's a game that they will overcome, going up 1-0. Incredible early game plays here from FlyQuest, and they're going to take the lead in this series.
Taking the lead and one step closer to the top 6 as they want to take down this provisional team. Getting as many minions into the base. Let the Winions win for game 1 of the best of 3 in this lower bracket.
I gotta say, some impressive stuff there from FlyQuest. This is what we continue to see from them here since they managed to really turn things around towards the end of that split. Like from start to finish, it was honestly just a really clean game from the Wildcard. Yeah. The one issue with how they play is that if they fall too far behind, there's no way to make it back.
And a lot of that boils down to that one flash body slam from Yuji in the bot lane. It
was pretty great.
Got Masu. Like, they were already doing pretty well. That really just fast-forward Masu in this game and made that Ezreal unstoppable, a godlike. And so they take game 1 because of it. Congrats out to FlyQuest. We'll see if Wildcard can bounce back as well. We have our halftime show presented by Rally Cry right after the break.